All right, babies, it's that time again. Oh, yeah. We're in Acts 17, and Paul is preaching about Jesus to a mixed group of philosophers and people of different persuasions and orientations. And he brings attention to this one area that has an inscription and a place of honor saying, "To the unknown God." And he basically says, this unknown God, it is the one and only God who created the earth and who sent us Jesus and raised him from the dead. So yeah, he's known, and that's what you need to know. So of course people get all upset about that. You know, anytime you're challenging sacred cows, yeah, people get all, what do they get? They get insulted and they get offended. And so they want to lash out instead of just be like, oh, okay, well, that's different. And that's kind of how it was, you know, where he visited. I forget the name of the place. It's somewhere in Greece, I think, right? So yeah, overall, historically, I think it's a useful narrative. It's similar to what we have to experience today, right? We have to face opposition, because anytime you align yourself with Jesus, you immediately put yourself in opposition to the world. Oh yeah. In fact, if you're not, then you're probably got too watered down of a gospel. Because Jesus has suffered what he never should have suffered, yet he needed to. So it's a real paradox. Because obviously he wasn't a criminal, he didn't deserve death. But it was in his death that he was able to show the love of God, and then finally to be brought to new life and to make his spirit available to all who ask. Yeah, that needed to happen. And God created the world knowing that that was going to need to be the center piece of all history. And of course, Jesus, being human, is not looking forward to spikes being put through his body and every nerve in his body being raked over a wooden cross just to keep breathing for 6 hours. Yeah, so unfortunately, us idiots needed something as drastic as that to understand that God loves us. So some of you might be saying, well, how is that? If God's whole point is to show us how he loves us. Why is he doing it by torturing his son? Good question. You know, I think if I was God, I would try a different way. Try a different. Think of something else. You know. And the other piece that's really troubling me is that we had animal sacrifice prior to the Jews even becoming a nation. And I'm trying to wrap my head around that. You know, because it almost looks like God. Now, check this out. You know how Paul fashioned his words to the philosophers in order to meet them where they're at. I'm thinking it could be God met us where we were at, which was in animal sacrifice. That people were sacrificing animals to appease gods. Like if there was an earthquake or a flood or some kind of devastation. They used animal sacrifices to placate the gods. So Israel emerges, and they're inspired by the same thing and start using the same practices to appease what they consider to be an angry God. And God's like, okay, that's the way we're going to play it. All right, so this is what you're going to need to do. And then he has a bunch of rituals that are necessary for certain types of offenses. Or sacrifices given at certain times of the year that honor him. And then ultimately sends Jesus to be the final sacrifice. And to show our faith and love and appreciation for God. He gives us his own life in us by his Spirit, which will never end. Historically, I can't come up with a better explanation. But like I said yesterday, a lot of this doesn't really matter. What does matter is that we believe God loves us. We believe he created us. We believe he gave us Jesus. We receive Jesus into our being simply by asking. And we share in eternal power, love, and joy, and are now forever betrothed to him, and that our union yields our children which are the fruit of the Spirit, love, peace, and joy. I have no other explanation.